In this 10th vlog, we are going to be discussing an issue that perhaps will hit closest to home: the issue of intimate geometry. Intimacy and love are, of course, the most important elements in fostering any meaningful relationship or close attachment with another human being. These two dimensions of our lives, intimacy and love, are thus two of the most important elements in all of human existence. However, strangely, the most important structures of abstract reason that humans often engage with in philosophy and science have little to no room for intimacy and love in their analysis. At the fundamental ground of both philosophy and science, you have precisely de-emotionalized geometries in the form of abstract perfect forms or in the form of mathematized nature. In either variety, the foundation of reality itself is not emotional and has no room for a serious ontological inquiry into the nature of intimacy and love. This, of course, presents to us a fundamental duality that has come to structure much of human knowledge: the duality between reason and emotions. Are these two dimensions reconcilable? Reason often has a very difficult time and, in many cases, never really seriously approaches the real of our intimate lives. This is, on the one hand, very strange because it is also clear that intimacy and love are absolutely fundamental in organizing the basic motions of our human action, whether that be in forming intimate relationships with friends or lovers, or whether that be forming families or communities, or even social systems and different forms of social groups. Without intimacy and love, everything falls apart. So why does reason have such difficult time approaching this dimension of reality? What reason would have to do in order to seriously approach this dimension is to get an understanding of what we might call the libidinal field. That is, the field of energy and fluctuations which, in some sense, govern human, social, emotional life. In order to start an analysis of intimate geometry, we have to change our fundamental presuppositions. If, carrying on from previous vlog episodes, science and philosophy operated on fundamental presuppositions which were purely non-emotional, in the sense of an abstract notion of God or heaven or an abstract notion of space-time geometry, we start here in an analysis of intimate geometries with the presupposition of analyzing our most internal emotional states. This could be things like fear and love, or desire and hatred. These emotional states are the very ground for our relationality, who we form attachments with and bonds with and connections with across time in an iterable pattern, and who we detach from, who we disconnect from, who we set boundaries with, and thus shape the nature of our most intimate relationships. Of course, intimate geometry is thus essential for being able to understand how one goes from being an infant to being a child, to being a teenager, to being an adult, and moving through adulthood. This life history circle is mediated by a reproduction of the same. One starts out as an infant, perhaps in relationship to adults like mothers and fathers and other adults who are the spheres of intimacy which one will become enculturated in and socialized within, up until the point where one is oneself, that subject, the subject who is a loving environment for the next generation of infants. In this process, naturally, sexuality as the mediating force which brings forth new life gives the highest level of intensity and intimacy that human beings can experience. Thus, reason has understandably, the most difficult time confronting this most intimate, this most intense dimension of human experience, our sexuality. Moving forward into the future, the nature of our intimate geometries, how they form and how they transform our lives, is perhaps one of the biggest sources of adventure and mystery. Intimacy, whether it's as a child forming in relationship to a mother, father, or other adult, or whether it's as an adult forming a sexual bond with another human or other humans, is a great source of identity building. One's identity is in some sense formed and generated from this very process. Are there universal features or universal structures which we can say are cross-cultural? How much cross-cultural variability has existed, and how much of this variability is due to different forms of informational or energetic organizations, like, for example, hunter-gatherer existence, agricultural existence, industrial existence, and now entering an information age? How does the information age change our intimate patterns? How does it change our life history cycles? These are all open questions. But since we are going through some sort of fundamental systemic transition, we have to ask ourselves, what is the best way to approach a constructive changing of ideality in regards to these most intimate and these most intense dimensions of our life? This is a job for reason, paradoxically, but it is a job for reason which must confront, finally, the dimension of passion, the dimension of desire, the dimension of love. It must approach an intimate, emotional geometry. I hope this gave a nice overview and introduction to how one may understand the history of abstract reason and its inability to approach intimate geometry, and how one might go about structuring a new analysis of intimate geometry.